Hey everyone, as of now The Witcher 3 is over 7 years old. I know it did get a next generation update in 2022, but this video is mostly focused on the content and the storyline of this game and how it was written. What surprises me the most is that even after so many years, the game has these little side plots which we still keep on uncovering. In the start of the game, after the prologue, we are in the White Orchard region. I kind of discovered this mysterious love story. I'm sure some of you might have come across it, but it's not as small as it seems. As because of this mysterious love affair, the very core of the White Orchard region got shook. First of all, if you haven't subscribed to my channel, please subscribe and definitely hit the bell icon. It will help me out a lot. To give you all a broader perspective of this game, we must understand the dynamic of the Witcher universe. As we know, it is set in a fantasy world which has a huge supernatural element, that is the magic and the monsters. Another thing we need to dive into is that it is set in a sort of a medieval world. In a real world, the medieval times, which literally mean the Middle Ages, were in between the 5th century and the 15th century. I am of the opinion that the Witcher universe is set in the latter part of this medieval time. You can correct me if I'm wrong. Now the question arises, what do the medieval times entail and how they have a connection with the Witcher universe? The medieval times encompassed a world in which the systems of the government were kingships or monarchies and barely had any element of democracy in them. The structure of these governments comprised of a monarch, that is a king, or an emperor on the top, who ruled over the nobility or the aristocracy, such as various nobles or aristocrats, which had huge amounts of holdings and agricultural lands, which generated a significant revenue as well as the crops for the entire kingdom. These agricultural lands were taken care of by these lesser people who weren't nobles. They were peasants who looked after these agricultural lands. Some of these people who belonged to the lower strata of society were also servants of the nobles, which I have mentioned earlier. They included carpenters, butchers, yeomen, and various household servants. To cut it short, we can say the Witcher universe is set in a fantasy world in which we witness the system of the government as well as the socio-cultural norms of how it would have been in the medieval times centuries ago. Now, how all of this is related to the mysterious love affair in the White Orchard region. Before I start, if you haven't played The Witcher 3, mind you, there are spoilers coming ahead. The moment Geralt and Vesemir set foot in the White Orchard region, once a part of the fallen Temerian kingdom, now a conquered territory of the Nilfgaardian Empire, it is obvious that it is a war-torn land. We're looking for Geralt's lover, the powerful sorceress, Yennefer of Vengerberg. The first encounter Geralt has is with the not-so-friendly Griffin who attacks Geralt and Vesemir. In a local inn, we ask about the whereabouts of Yennefer.
Looking for a woman. Raven-haired, violet eyes, dresses in black and white. Looking for a woman.
Like everyone.
Not like everyone. And not just any woman. Mine smells of lilac and gooseberries, dresses in black and white.
We are told by someone or something, if you know what I mean.
Yennefer of Vengerberg. An Nilfgaardian scout from the local garrison saw her.
Where?
At their camp. She rode in there. Dark of night. Black and white. Gooseberries and... Yes, I know. Had a terse exchange with the garrison commander and raced off.
Where to?
I'm not omniscient. Ask at the garrison.
This Nilfgaardian garrison, which was the manor of the former Lord of White Orchard, at this part of the game it becomes very evident that White Orchard is now a captured or conquered territory of Nilfgaard, however you want to put it.
Captain Peter Sagwin Levy is in the tower. Turn right, past the gate.
When we arrive and meet the local garrison commander,
What do you seek here?
Yennefer of Vengerberg. Where was she headed?
That is a military secret.
Haven't called the guards. So go ahead. What's your price?
There is a griffin in the area. Slay it. and then I shall see what I can do.
who wants us to.
What's the name of the hunter who found them?
Mislav. He has a hut south of the village, very near the wood. Helpful fellow. A little strange, though.
Now we must locate and kill the griffin for the Nilfgaardians. We set out to meet.
You, Mislav?
Hear that?
Wolves? No. Wild dogs.
Yes. More dangerous than wolves.
When we meet Mislav the hunter, he tells us,
Dieter.
You know him?
We served at the Lord's manor together, where the Black Army's encamped now. He was a stable hand, I was the Lord's hunter. But that was before... well, a long time ago.
Before what?
Before they drove me from the village.
What did you do?
Nothing. I'm a freak. Sorry. I'd rather not talk about it.
I'm a freak too.
Aye, but of another kind. The Lord's son, Florian, and I, we loved each other. Dieter walked in on us in the stables. They drove me away. Florian hanged himself. Lord started drinking, and the estate fell into ruin. That's the long and short of it.
thus giving us a starting point of this mysterious love affair. In the White Orchard region, there is a contract, Devil by the Well, in which we kill our very first noon wraith of the game. After meeting the contract issuer, we go to a location called the Abandoned Village. After Geralt's initial investigation, a man and a woman were
A man, stabbed with a knife, died on the spot. Animals fed on his body, picked his skeleton clean. More bloodstains over there. But it's not his.
apparently this murdered woman was
His blood stains, barely visible. Someone was dragged this way. Someone who was still alive. Palm prints in blood. Small hands. A woman's. Someone dragged her out. She was wounded. Fought for her life. Blood stains. Almost faded. But the line's taut. Something's not right. A corpse, hanged by the bucket rope. Woman the journal belonged to. Must be.
we finally find the artifact which binds the murdered woman's spirit, who is now a noon wraith haunting the area. We find out her name is
Lucky not to come up empty-handed. A bracelet with an inscription. To Claire, from Volker.
When we read this journal, it becomes quite clear, quite literally in our case, pun intended. It's evident that Claire and Volker used to work for the Lord of the Manor, and they had no intention of going back. Now, after we meet Tumera, the herbalist of White Orchard,
Listen, ever heard of a woman named Claire? Lived around here?
Heard of her? A mild way to put it. Claire was a friend. The only person dear to me in all of White Orchard. Until her husband, Volker, quarrelled with the Lord of the Manor. He then gathered the family, moved out into the woods to start a new settlement. The Lord and his retinue rode there to convince them to return. They were to be civil. No forcing, no bloodshed. But you saw. Word is Claire said something about the Lord's son, Florian. Something that made the Lord furious. But who knows the truth?
Lots of misfortune for such a small village.
now we connect all the dots. The hunter Mislav has an affair with Florian, the Lord of the Manor's son. They are caught and then everything falls apart. Florian commits suicide. As I said earlier in the start of the video, this game is set in a medieval setting where having a love affair with the same gender would be strongly looked down upon. Then Claire and her husband, Volker, left the Lord's estate where they lived and worked for years. They moved to a new village, although after a while the Lord wanted them to come back. So, the Lord of the Manor, along with his men, went to the village to ask Claire and Volker to come back. They had an argument as Claire said something about the Lord's son, which angered the Lord, thus resulting in a bloodshed, killing Claire and Volker. As time passed, the lord died, without leaving behind an heir to White Orchard. If you recall, I mentioned this mysterious love affair shook the very core of White Orchard. At the very start of The Witcher 3, we witness a cinematic battle right before Geralt's dream about Kaer Morhen. It is actually the Battle of White Orchard, which was fought between the leftover Temerian army and the Empire. Obviously, the Nilfgaardian Empire won the battle. Why wouldn't it? You see, in the medieval times, countries did not have standing armies of their own, like we see today. Powerful nobles used to have their own armies. In the time of war, these armies would be called upon by their king. They would fight for their country under the leadership of the king. In the case of White Orchard, there was no lord. He died. And for Nilfgaard, winning the Battle of White Orchard was pretty much a walk in the park, because White Orchard had no lord nor an army to fight for Temeria, and all which was left were conscripted local peasants who weren't actually soldiers, who would know how to fight against a proper army. So this is it for now. I hope you liked this video. I really need your guys' support. As you guys can see, majority of my viewers are not subscribed to me. I would frankly say even majority over here is an understatement, so it would help me out a lot if you guys subscribe to me and especially press the bell icon. See you guys soon with more interesting videos.